was talking to the void.
Mm.
And,
What did it say?
I was asking to you to make. Oh, you're already recording? Cool.
I certainly am. It's a pity that I missed out on what the void said, though.
Oh no, just asking you to make me a presenter so I can record it, or an owner or whatever. But,
All
that's
right.
okay.
Yeah, cool.
Just send me the recording later so I can upload it to YouTube.
No worries. So who's starting?
I think it's better if Brooke starts, and then I can just fill the remaining of the time just rambling about CKAN.
Great plan.
Cool. Yeah, do you want to give me a presenter? There's not much to show, but can show a bit. So this isn't a particularly organized talk. It's really just sort of habits that I've got to do with Git and how it interacts with GitHub. So it's where we leave a paper trail during our development, and this is especially useful on large projects, and I've got some of these habits from working with CKAN because there's a lot of developers over a long period of time, and you often have to delve into the guts of the project and its history to understand the problem that you're working on. So being able to tie particular commits together when you do git blame with its issue and its pull request and its other associated commits is quite important. So leaving that paper trail behind is super useful because often commit messages, issues, and pull requests and all of that information act as documentation for the project. So as well as the formal documentation, all of that associated discussion and stuff is also could be considered documentation. And when we write it, we should probably think about it in that way and write it as clearly as possible so that we're writing for that future code archaeologist who's trying to understand what the hell's going on. When I write, yeah, so ignore this stuff which is kind of on there. When I write commit messages, so when I, so all commits to master, they start with they usually on GitHub, they start with an issue usually, and they end with a merged pull request. And we tie these issues and pull, I tie these issues and pull requests together wherever possible to leave this paper trail to help these code archaeologists of the future to understand our processes and our justifications. And also when I work on a branch, I add the issue number that we're talking about to that branch name with a really brief description as well, so that of the problem I'm working on, which can sometimes help to track what's going on. And so I sort of also when I come back to the project the next day or after a weekend, I remember what issue it was I was working on. So for example, if I do git branch on this project, which is Open Data Census, these are sort of a load of branches. A lot of these are old and I could be pruning them and get rid of them from the project, but they're quite illustrative of the type of the way that I add the issue number and add the a really brief description of what's going on the to it as well. So that's kind of useful. Also, when I make commits, I add the issue number to the start of the commit title. And that's really useful in GitHub because it automatically creates a link for that from the commit message to the issue that it's referring to. So if I look at my Git log for this project, you can see that most of the commits have this format where I've got an open square bracket followed by this issue number, close square bracket, and then the rest of the commit title, and then any additional commit message underneath it. That's super useful, or I find it quite useful. I find it useful enough that I've got a Git hook that I wrote, which is used for the prepare message Git hook. Can you see this? This is I've changed from one terminal window to another. So this is the prepare commit message Git hook, which looks at the branch name and grabs the issue number from the branch name, and then uses that to automatically create this format of a square bracket with the issue number attached to it. I've got something in here on staging. So if I did a git commit all on this, it automatically adds that issue number, which it grabbed from the branch name. So that's kind of useful. I've got this Git hook on GitHub in my in a repository that I've got there for dot files, if anybody's interested in that. And in the pull request as well, it's really useful to refer to the original issue that we were talking about, that the pull request is hoping to resolve, and adding these magic words like closes, hashtag, closes, and then the number of the Git issue, GitHub issue, because that can then, once that pull request is merged, the GitHub issue is automatically closed. And also, someone recently on Slack brought it to my attention that you can also use this in Waffle, that you can connect issues with pull requests, and I find that actually really useful. I'll just switch screen I'm presenting with so that you can see kind of how it works, because it's quite cool. Is this easy to do? Probably not. Cool. So this is the Waffle project for the Open Data Census, the Open Data Survey, and there's this issue 143, which has a load of pull requests connected to it, and that used in the pull request we use this magic words connected to connect those, and so there's a lot going on in this particular issue, loads of stuff which needs to be done, and so we spun a load of separate pull requests off from it, and each one is connected to it, so I can see how it's progressing in this in progress column of Waffle. So yeah, the magic words kind of useful for connecting in Waffle and for connecting issues in GitHub. That's it really. It's just a really brief discussion of sort of habits that I've got about where I connect issue numbers and pull request numbers in Git for use in GitHub and Waffle. I don't know if anybody's got any other habits that they use which are sort of similar to this, or critique of the way that I do it, or what, but thoughts might be interesting or useful. And that's it.
Cool. Is this connected to an issue number? Is this used anywhere else apart from Waffle? So does it GitHub use this for anything?
I don't know if GitHub uses it. I don't think it does, but Waffle uses it. If you use the magic word closed instead of connects, then when you merge the pull request, it will move the issue from the in progress column to the done column in Waffle. So Waffle does use the other magic words that GitHub uses, like closed or fixed or whatever.
Cool.
Yeah. But I know that connects is a way of doing it without it automatically closing it, which is kind of useful because it means you can add multiple pull requests to one issue, which is sometimes necessary.
Cool. The only thing that I will add is that, I mean, I'm a huge fan of prepending commit messages with the issue number. It's something that Brooke probably learned in CKAN. And one thing that I have is on my Vim, I have configured Vim just to when you're just over an issue number and you press, I don't know, I think it's I or whatever, it will just open Chrome with this issue loaded in. And I find that really useful when you're reviewing stuff or going through a changelog or whatever.
And to add another thing, Waffle also recognizes if you put the issue number on the branch name you're pushing. So if you do like 660-fixing bugs, it would get that, like it would connect that branch to the issue. So whenever you do a pull request with that branch, it will automatically connect to the issue. And just adding, on Open Trials, we have a single repository with all the issues and multiple scattered repositories for the data pipeline and other stuff. And just adding that you can also cite issue from other repository by doing like Open Trials /collectors hashtag the number of the issue. So if you have multiple repositories, then you can kind of cross-link the issues between them.
That's really useful.
Yeah, use it lots. And didn't know about the connect. Quite cool.
Yeah, I looked for it, this special word, because I think you may have mentioned in Slack this idea of putting it in the branch name, but I wasn't doing that. That's not sort of the way that I format branch names, so it wouldn't work for me. So I was looking for this alternative way of connecting and found this connects thing in the Waffle documentation.
Cool. Might end up using it as well.
I think that one of the downsides of this is, I'm quite heavy with this linking issue numbers and pull requests and stuff with commits, is that obviously it's really only useful for as long as we're using GitHub. You know, as soon as we move to another decentralized version control system, you know, it stops becoming useful, and we kind of lose that those connections between those connections. But for right now, it's kind of useful.
Yeah, hopefully whatever next tool we end up using would be able to import the issues and all the history from GitHub. There's a lot of value over there.
But I think that because in the past, and again, this is part of CKAN's history because it's old enough that it used to use a different it used to use a different issue tracking system, and there are a couple of times when I had to do some code archaeology to figure out what's going on, where it was it was way past the GitHub time, and it went into this older issue tracking system, and yeah, it became quite hard work.
Yeah, I remember when I started at Open Knowledge, this was a pet hate of Trigvi's, that people were tying commit messages to the particular code hosting platform that happens to be popular. But yeah.
I mean, I partly mentioned it as a critique of this system in Trigvi's honor.
Yeah.
Thanks all, unless anyone's got any questions. It was just a short discussion about GitHub issue numbers.
Cool. So I guess I can go next. I mean, Adam, I don't know, in terms of time, I think that my presentation is probably over 10 minutes? Do you think that we can go a bit over the 1 hour, like 1:30 mark?
As far as I'm concerned, we can, and if someone needs to leave, then they can just leave, and they can watch it on YouTube later. So, but if you're okay with it, Adria, then I suggest we just go with it.
Okay, at this, just to confirm, is this going to be on YouTube?
So yeah, I try to upload everything to YouTube unless there are any objections, and then I just don't do it. but
Okay,
yeah,
this is,
I started a playlist on YouTube, and I'll try to upload everything there.
okay, just to be mindful of it. Cool. So if you want to make me presenter.
I think Paul needs to do that. Okay.
Cool. Can you see a recursive? Can you see my screen? These are some slides, Google Slides. Hello, can you see my screen?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, see it.
Cool. Great. Let's present this then. So this is a short and quick introduction to CKAN, and notice the emphasis on short. It hasn't been massively prepared, but I think that's fine. We can have like a more like an interactive Q&A. I'll go quickly through some facts and some history and some background on CKAN, and then we can maybe open the floor and we can discuss any other topic specifically. CKAN is a project that has been historically a big part of the technical work at Open Knowledge, and this recently has changed in that all commercial activities have moved to Viderum, but we still keep a role on the CKAN community, and so I think it's important that at least everybody has like a basic understanding of what it is and how it operates and who uses it and so on and so forth. So this is, as I said, this is like was an informal presentation. I will be just basically going through web pages and links and some slides that I picked together from other slides. But if you want a proper presentation with lots of links and better structure and a summary of more detailed summary of the features, you can click on this link as well. Cool. So just to get started, I'll basically just talk over some CKAN instances. CKAN is an open source platform for building open data portals, and it's used by many organizations across the world. We don't know exactly how many, which is a problem, but probably I would say that it's quite likely that there are around 200 or more CKAN instances around. And they range from very big organizations and very big instances like the European data portal that aggregates metadata, data sets from all over Europe, to the European Union portal, which is another one that Open Knowledge developed, to probably one of the most famous ones, which is data.gov in the States, which was another project that we also kickstarted and worked on the first implementation at Open Knowledge. The Canadian one, like this one, this one is from Indonesia, but there are many national open data portals that are powered by CKAN. But it's not only at the national level. There's also many cities that use CKAN as well. This one is from Glasgow, which we also built on the first iteration. There's the London data store as well, which uses CKAN on the background, though. It has a front end built on WordPress as well. The city of Karlsruhe, I'll just, in Germany, I'll just mention it because the main developer is really active on the community and he's doing great things. But apart from this, traditionally government users, we've seen CKAN used more and more in recent years in other contexts. So, for instance, we have it on universities as repositories for academic data or for research data, like this one from the University of Bristol. There's also the University of Pennsylvania and many other ones. For instance, organizations like NHS England uses it for their own data catalog as well. And even there are some heavily customized instances like the data portal for the Natural History Museum in London, which is a really cool instance that shifted like the traditional approach from a catalog of data sets to more like the catalog of the actual data and data records. So as you can see, this, even though governments are the big proportion of users still using CKAN, there's a lot of different use cases as well on research and other organizations. So how does it work? I will use this one, which is the catalog for Northern Ireland that we also built, just to show you things around. At its core, CKAN is a catalog for data, generally open data, and so the main page, if you want, is the search page where you can see all the data sets on the site listed, and there's a search that is powered by Solr on the backend, and you can do like a full text search in here and just filter by different tags or formats or whatever on the left-hand column. In terms of authorization, all datasets belong to an organization or a publisher, and that's users belonging to these organizations affect if they are authorized to edit or visualize a dataset as well. And you can also aggregate datasets by more like thematic areas, and that's what we call groups. And a dataset can belong to different groups, not just one. Cool. So let's have a look at these ones. For instance, this is the dataset page with all the metadata and comments or whatever that the instance has customized to display on this particular page. And then each dataset can have one or more resources, which are the actual data files or linked to external APIs or whatever. And then for tabular resources, we display a preview of the data, which is powered by another library that was developed by Open Knowledge that is called ClickLine. Although we might replace this for something more modern at some point in CKAN. And one thing I wanted to show you about the resources, let me find another CSV. Let's check this one. No. Okay, basically I'm looking for a CSV. Damn it. Anyway, okay, last chance. TV for scaling data. Let's try this one. Yeah, there we go. One of the features that I want to highlight is that CKAN has a data API integrated. So whenever you upload a tabular data file, like a CSV or an Excel, if the format of the data is suitable, it will get imported into the CKAN data store. So that will allow you to access programmatically the contents of the data in a JSON interface like this one. And you can even access it via SQL as well. What else? Just quickly show you the publishing process. I'm going to use the demo site for that, at demo.ckan.org. And we can add a data set here. There's a two-step form for adding data. Some description and all the default. This is a default CKAN metadata schema, which most organizations will customize anyway, and I will come to that in a second. But basically, it's a straightforward web application form for uploading data, JSON in this case. So this is the vanilla CKAN that you get when you install CKAN, and then, as I said, most people will customize this. What else? I think in terms of functionality, that's pretty much it. That only covers like what you get out of the box in CKAN. So obviously you have many more extensions to augment it or to add more functionalities, but I will come back to this in a second. Let me come back to my slides. There we go. In terms of technology, the CKAN is like a web application. It's built in Python and JavaScript, and the core and then as a backend, it uses Postgres as database and Solr as the search index. That's a core web application, which is CKAN itself, and then several extensions that can be plugged into different parts of the code base. Data store and the file store are the most important ones, but then there are several other ones which we'll come back in a second. It's a pretty traditional model view controller, if you want, application. The only thing is that between the model or the database and the controllers that are the kind of the endpoints that receive the request from the user is what we call the logic layer, where it includes authorization and the actual actions that perform different actions on the site. Things like dataset show or user update or organization list or things like that. And whenever necessary, there's a schema attached to each of these entities. And the way that it's structured is that all these individual actions, which is the ones that the application uses and the controllers and the templates and the other components used to perform whatever task, these individual actions are automatically exposed via the API. So essentially, everything that you can do on the site or on the code via extensions or from CKAN core can be done externally via the API. So that allows like a really close integration if you're using some front end on top of CKAN or building a third-party app or whatever. I already mentioned extensions. That's one of the big strengths of CKAN is that it's very customizable. And the way that this works is that there are different interfaces, different parts of this stack that extensions can hook into and implement different methods. These are just some of the ones that are more used. So say that if you have a CKAN extension and you want to add your own custom endpoint or custom logic, you would implement I actions to provide your own action or process, and then probably IOT function to prevent to expose the authorization around this action. I don't know, things like custom visualizations, like this table that I showed you that was built on Recline. There's an interface to create your own based on the inputs that you will get from the resource page. So that has allowed people to develop previews for GeoJSON or for XML or other custom metadata formats. Just some example of the kind of extensions that are possible are that some of the ones that are more popular. There's one called CKAN scheming that allows you to customize the default CKAN schema via JSON files rather than via code, which is how traditionally it was done. Another really popular one is CKAN harvest to import remote metadata into CKAN. That's one scenario that has been used very, very widely in CKAN, is that there will be like a main CKAN instance that will act like an aggregator of metadata for many different local CKAN instances. And that's the way that, I don't know, data.gov or the European Data Portal or many other CKAN instances operate. CKAN ticket that offers linked data and semantic capabilities based on the ticket standard for the ticket vocabulary for describing data sets. This is getting a lot of traction now. CKAN Special is one of the oldest ones that I started many years ago for providing special capabilities like searching around a particular area or displaying the extent of a data set or harvesting special specific formats like these ones. And other extensions like make it easier to deploy it on a cloud environment, like cloud storage that will allow you to store the files on S3 or Azure, etc. There's a repository for extensions at extensions.ck.org, which is not great because they are not sorted by popularity or anyway, but at least you can search and find what people have been working on in terms of extensions there. Cool. The only thing I will mention in terms of the technical side of CKAN, apart that it has 10 years, so it has had a lot of time to gain technical depth, and that shows in some part of the code. Some of the most critical work or most important job that is being right now is in migrating the framework that CKAN is using. It's currently using Pylons as web framework, which is a quite old web framework that was chosen at the time because, like many years ago, it was a really good option, and actually one of the Pylons creators was part of the CKAN team, so it made sense. But as you can imagine, as years has gone by, there are many much better options now, and we decided to go with Flask. That I won't go into much detail into that. There's some really comprehensive slides there that explain the process that we follow, and some nice docs that I wrote about the process and the status of it. So if you're interested, you can check in there. What else? Right. So just to finish up in terms of governance of the project. Well, obviously CKAN is an open source project, and traditionally it was run by Open Knowledge in the different names that it has had over the years. Just to ensure its sustainability moving forward, a few years ago, like the management of the project was moved to the CKAN association, which included other stakeholders. There are two main entities on this CKAN association: the technical team, which are the developers that have commit rights on the main repository, and then the steering group, which is formed by stakeholders and decision makers, people that is working on CKAN. The technical team has been pretty well established for a few years now, and has, I would say, very robust and very well-defined processes in place in terms of how it handles incoming requests or how releases are made. There are challenges in terms of the size of the technical team, but this, because basically, let me just show you. I think I have it already there. I think from that's the new CKAN website, and you can see the current members of the technical team there, which is me, Brooke, in a kind of dormant way, if you want, but not very active way, and Ian Ward from Statistics Canada, and Tyler Kennedy from Statistics Canada, and Dave Reed from Hackney Workshop. These are the current active members, and you can see that it's not a very big number of people given the size and the scope of CKAN. So we're working on improving this during this year and the past year and this next year. We got funding from Hewlett for myself to kind of work on community development and finding ways to improve the sustainability of the project. And as part of this work, I've been reaching out to vendors and stakeholders to so they can contribute to the tech team. And as part of this, there are two developers currently that are kind of being mentored to become tech team members. So we are working on the right direction, I guess. The other part of the CKAN association, as I said, is the steering group. This has, let me see if they are listed here. This has members from the Canadian government, Link Digital, which is a vendor from Australia, you know, this guy from Open Knowledge, and then Sebastian from Viderum, and Joel from OpenGov, which is another vendor on the States. And the steering group kind of decides things around the roadmap, or where the business plan, or where CKAN should be headed, things like that. And yeah, these are the main kind of entities that govern the project, if you want. I think, let me check. I think that that was all I wanted to say. In terms of OKI and CKAN, yeah, I think I mentioned it at different times of this presentation, but essentially OKI used to have like a commercial branch that you did CKAN consulting and was the main driver of the CKAN development, but that has been moved to Viderum, and currently we only maintain like a community presence in CKAN, like with me being part of the tech team and being involved on the mailing list and reaching out to the community. And that's essentially the role that OKI now has on CKAN. And I think I'll stop talking now, and I'll open the floor to any questions that you may have.
I have a question about what system you use to allow extensions. So what does somebody need to do to make an extension?
Right. So people. So there. This. Okay. Let me share my screen again. Give it a second. So there are all these interfaces that are available on CKAN core, and then from an extension you will implement the methods of these extensions and customize it to your own needs. So let me quickly show you an example. For instance, so each extension is a separate Python module. I
can't see anything.
Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Wait me 2 seconds.
Doesn't look like it.
What about now?
I see your screen, yeah.
Do you see it, Georgiana?
No, but
okay. So basically, Anyway, I was going to show some code, but I'll paste the link on Slack. Essentially, plugins are Python classes that extend these interfaces, and each interface has a set of methods that you can override on your own extension, and that will be called at different places on CKAN core. So say there will be hooks that are called after create or before create. Before and after creating a data set that will get past the data set dict, and then you can modify it on your extension and pass it back to CKAN core, just to give an example. Or the preview interfaces, for instance, they will provide some methods that will say, I don't know, a method to decide if a particular view plugin can preview or not a particular resource, depending on the format or the URL or whatever. And then another method to provide the template that will get loaded on the front end with your own JavaScript or whatever. But essentially, it's like a pretty common plugin interface pattern.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. Great. Anyone else? Cool. So thank you very much, guys. And I think I'll leave it here, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. That was really interesting. So anybody has anything to add or ask or comment?
What are you guys presenting next week?
Oh, that's a surprise. In a sense, it's going to surprise me as well. Yeah, we need to decide that. Okay. So I guess we'll stop here. Paul, if you could send me the recording, then I'll upload it.
Yep, no problem.
Great. So thanks, everyone. And we'll keep in touch.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Speak to you all tomorrow. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.